The assembled automotive press, car fanatics, and Ford executives all went crazy. The auto world's most sought-after mystery car had finally resurfaced. And all it took was sheer luck, fortuitous timing, and a cosmic coincidence of epic proportions. Cars and Hollywood both emerged in the early 1900s and grew up in tandem. They've made a great team ever since. Placing car brands in movies and television shows makes for great storylines, and it sells a lot of cars for manufacturers. That Ford Studio car loan plan, going back to the Quinn Martin productions, has paid off. Ford is the runaway leader in Hollywood, with more than 30,000 appearances in movies and TV shows, more than tripling the appearances of the second-place brand, Chevrolet. Sometimes, a lot of money changes hands in return for automotive product placement. Other times, the loan of the vehicles is the payment. The studio gets use of the cars. The car company gets global on-screen exposure. And when the movie is part of a franchise like Marvel or the Bond series, car manufacturers get to show off their latest model in each successive sequel, turning like into lust. It's one of the best ways to drive sales when you're under the influence. I'm Terry O'Reilly. This episode was recorded in the Terrestream Airstream mobile recording studio. Producer, Debbie O'Reilly. Sound engineer, Jeff Devine. Under the Influence theme by Ari Posner and Ian Lefevre. Tunes provided by APM Music. Follow me on social at Terry O Influence. And if you'd like to read next week's fun fact, just go to apostrophepodcasts.ca and follow the prompts. See you next week.
Hi, this is Monica from Puss Lynch.
Fun fact.
The Chevrolet Suburban is the first vehicle to get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. It made its film debut in 1952.
This is CBC Radio 1, 990 AM, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg. Massey Hall, the most iconic music venue in Canada. An absolute milestone in the careers of musicians who stand on the historic stage. And you have a front row seat. The Beaches, Charlotte Cardin, William Prince, Jeremy Dutcher, July Talk, and more. CBC Music Live at Massey Hall, now available on CBC Jam.
Thank you, Toronto!
You know the feeling of finding a really good podcast? Or the feeling of someone always being there, like your favorite radio show. Stream CBC Podcasts, CBC Music, and CBC Radio.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 12 o'clock, it's sunny. It is starting to get windy. We're going to see a windy afternoon. It's 18 degrees. We're headed to a high today of 22. RCMP have made an arrest in a double homicide that rocked a remote northern community almost 3 years ago. In September of 2021, 31-year-old Brent Denachisi and 24-year-old Leona Tasazi were found dead after a house fire in Northland's Denisoulene First Nation. Superintendent Rob Lasson says an investigation found the two had been in a home with the suspect and there was an argument. The suspect left and allegedly returned with a firearm and shot the two. Lasson says a short time later the home was engulfed in flames. An autopsy found the two died as a result of injuries from being shot. He says the deaths have had a lasting impact on the community.
Tragically, these two lives were lost. Families and a very small community were shattered.
Lassonde says 22-year-old Leon Paul Mercredi was arrested in Fond du Lac, Saskatchewan on Monday. He is originally from the same community as the victims. He is charged now with 2 counts of first-degree murder and is being held in custody in Winnipeg. At City Hall, Transcona councillor Russ Wyatt wants to expand the next Winnipeg Jets whiteout party. He's trying to convince council colleagues to expand the next street party all the way to the Forks. CBC's Bartley Kivas is at the monthly Winnipeg City Council meeting.
The next Winnipeg Jets home game is Tuesday. That'll be Game 5 of the Jets' first-round series against the Colorado Avalanche. Councillor Russ Wyatt wants the Tuesday night party to be bigger than the first 2 were this year. He wants to expand the whiteout party beyond Donald Street and True North Square to the Forks. Wyatt wants the city to talk to the Forks and True North Sports and Entertainment about this. First, he'll need 2/3 of City Council to agree to even vote on his motion. He would then have to get a majority of council to agree to the idea. Wyatt's motion does not indicate who would pay for an expanded whiteout party. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
City Council also voted today to approve a plan to clean up homeless encampments, and they will vote this afternoon on a long-delayed proposal to build housing on the Parker lands. A 27-year-old man in Pukatawagan is charged with second-degree murder after a man was stabbed to death in that community. RCMP responded to a call at a home just before 8 Tuesday morning. The 42-year-old injured man made his own way to the nursing station where he died of his injuries. RCMP Major Crimes have arrested Sky Colombe. He has been remanded in custody. The Japanese automaker Honda has announced a major investment in Canada. The company is building 4 new facilities in Ontario to build electric vehicles and the batteries that power them. Tom Perry reports.
Today is an important day for Honda in Canada, in North America, and around the world.
Honda's global CEO Toshihiro Mibe in Canada to announce a $15 billion project. The company will build 4 new facilities in Ontario to produce batteries, battery components, and the electric vehicles that will be powered by them, as many as 240,000 vehicles per year when the project is up and running.
It's the largest auto investment in Canadian history.
Ontario Premier Doug Ford was on hand for the Honda announcement, along with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The federal and provincial governments are offering $5 billion in tax breaks and other incentives, split 50-50, to back the Honda project, which is expected to create 1,000 direct jobs and, it's hoped, many more spin-offs. Tom Perry, CBC News, Ottawa.
The U.S. Supreme Court is hearing arguments on whether Donald Trump can claim immunity to avoid prosecution. The former president is criminally charged with conspiring to overturn the 2020 election results. Trump's legal team says a president has to have immunity to govern effectively. Sonia Sotomayor is among the justices so far skeptical of those arguments.
This is what you're asking us to say, which is that a president is entitled for total personal gain to use the trappings of his office without facing criminal liability.
The timing of the Supreme Court decision will affect if and when the case goes to trial. Disgraced Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein is getting a new trial in his 2020 sex crimes case. New York's appeals court has overturned his conviction on the basis Weinstein didn't get a fair trial. Cameron McIntosh has details.
Harvey Weinstein's conviction in 2020 was the landmark moment for the #MeToo movement. Now the New York Court of Appeal is overturning his conviction, saying the first trial allowed testimony from witnesses about prior sexual acts that were not part of the charges against him. It adds Weinstein was cross-examined in a manner that cast him in a prejudicial light. Weinstein, a powerful figure in Hollywood, was convicted of first-degree criminal sexual assault on a film production assistant and third-degree rape on an aspiring actress. The Manhattan District Attorney says it will retry the case. Weinstein, meanwhile, will be transferred to prison in California. He's also serving a 16-year sentence on another conviction in that state for rape and sexual assault. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Forecast for the city of Winnipeg. Get outside. Sunshine, a little windy, and a high today of 22.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to Radio Noon. Thanks for joining us today on this sunny Thursday. Hey, let's talk about nature today. What signs of spring have you been seeing? Join our call-in conversation after 12:30. Biologist Doug Collicutt and CBC's own Bryce Hoy will be here to answer any questions you may have. Farming takes many skills and qualities, including creativity. At 12:15, we'll meet one of the owners of a family farm that just won an award from Travel Manitoba. How they added to their operation and their family's experience by inviting city dwellers to spend a day, and how they did it all sustainably. But we begin today with more on news that has just broken in our province: an arrest in a double homicide. An arrest has been made in a 2021 double homicide investigation. 31-year-old Brent Denachisi and 24-year-old Leona Tazazi were found dead after a house fire in September 2021. Leon Paul Mercredi was arrested on Monday in Fond du Lac, Saskatchewan. He's originally from the same community, where police say he fled after committing the crimes in his home community and the home community of the two victims, Northland's Denasule First Nation. Let me say that again, Northland's Denesulene First Nation in northern Manitoba. RCMP Major Crimes just updated the media on this investigation. In fact, I think the news conference may still be ongoing. Here's Superintendent Rob Lawson, officer in charge with the RCMP Major Crime Services, speaking just minutes ago. And we warn you, this story may be upsetting.
As the officer in charge of Major Crime Services for the RCMP in Manitoba, I'm here today to tell you about an arrest in a double homicide in a small remote community that occurred in Northland's Denesulian First Nation in September of 2021. I want to recognize the partnership and community support we received from this community. I also need to take a moment and recognize the mothers of the victims. Leona Tazazi's mother, Ellen, and Brent Denachisi's mother, Veronique. Both of these strong women have been engaged with us throughout this investigation and have offered utmost support, assisting and supporting us throughout this time by telling their story. I can't imagine how difficult this time is for you, has been for both of you, and I offer from them our sincere condolences on their unspeakable loss. I thank you for your courage and for all you have done to help the RCMP to get us to where we are today. I would also like to acknowledge Leona's father, David, who's here today, Dave Tazazi from the PAW. My sincere condolences, sir. I know the details I'm about to speak of will be extremely difficult for all to hear, and I will try to be as respectful as possible. Brent was 31 when he died, and Leona was only 24 years old. Our investigators have worked closely with the families, and through these conversations and talks, they have learned a lot about these two people. Leona was described, and we learned her to be a lover of the outdoors. This included camping, fishing, snowmobiling. She also loved to cook and bake for her family and friends. She was surrounded by a loving family with very young siblings. Brent was a loving father to two amazing daughters. He was very avid and loved sports and was a very quiet man. But as his family will tell you, he wouldn't stop talking once you got to know him. Both are incredibly missed by their friends and family and the entire community. As I've mentioned previously, our investigators have been working tirelessly to piece together what happened the night of the homicides. On the evening of September 9th, 2021, Brent, Leona, and the accused were at Brent's home spending time together at a residence. The accused then left the residence after a disagreement and later returned, now armed with a firearm. It is during this return visit that we believe he took the life of Brent and Leona. As per investigation, the autopsies confirmed that their cause of deaths were indeed result of injuries sustained by the firearm. The accused then left again from the residence and returned moments later Investigation has outlined that the house was then seen engulfed in flames. First responders attended to the fire, and after the fire was extinguished, the remains of Brent and Leona were located in the residence. Tragically, these 2 lives were lost. Families and a very small community were shattered. Following an intense RCMP Major Crime Services investigation immediately commenced and has never stopped. In fact, searches were still being conducted in the community as recently as March 20th of this year. As you will see on the TV beside me, banners were hung in the community at the site of the murders that were in Dene, so the community could engage more easily and with as much understanding as possible to link into the community. We posted information to social media, we issued news releases and engaged the media, with Veronique and Ellen going on the radio to plead with the public and to come forward with any information. This required extreme courage and bravery on these women. The investigation really needed the engagement of the community. This work ultimately led them to conducting interviews and furthering the investigation into Saskatchewan. On April 22nd, 2024, RCMP Major Crime Services, the Special Projects Team investigators, attended to the community of Fond du Lac, Saskatchewan, where they arrested Leon Paul McCurdy, 22 years of age. The accused is from Northlands Dene Sulian First Nation, but had left the community very shortly after the murders happened. McCurdy has been arrested and transported to Winnipeg, where he remains in custody here in Winnipeg, and he faces 2 charges of first-degree murder. Now that we have someone publicly named, charged, and in custody, we continue to ask anyone with information related to these deaths to come forward or call the designated tip line at 431-489-8112. I'll just say the tip line number again. It's 431-489-8112. Something that's important to note, and I need to be clear on, while we continue to seek more information, the investigation does not believe anyone else was involved in this shooting. I think that it's important to know for the community and the family to begin their healing process. Today, we do have a man in custody and some answers for the family and community. But that is not to say that this is over. This double homicide has no doubt had a profound effect on a very tight-knit community.
Rob Lawson, officer in charge with the RCMP Major Crimes Services, speaking at a news conference just minutes ago. You can read more on this story as it develops on our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Your local news at your fingertips.
CBC News has a local news app made for your phone or tablet.
So don't waste time scrolling for the local stories you want. Just download the app to get the information that matters to you when it happens.
And how you want it.
Another way to get your local news. The CBC News app. Download it today.
It is 12:15 and you're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, on your CBC Listen app, and on CBC Manitoba's YouTube page. Hello to everyone who's watching there. Please get your comments in because we're going to have a great chat this afternoon in our 12:30 call-in conversation. It's going to be about nature. What signs of spring are you seeing? We've got a biologist coming in today, Doug Callicut. Let me say that again. Callicut. Sorry, Doug, I can say your name right all the time, except, right now. And our Bryce Hoy is also going to join us. We're going to talk about the significance of the things you are seeing. So do call in if you want to call now. Our listener line is always open. We'll give you the live number at 12:30. What a day it is to go enjoy nature. It's a mainly sunny day here in Winnipeg. We're going to get up to a high temperature of 22 degrees. Tonight, we could have a few showers beginning with the risk of a thunder shower, only getting down to 11, so that's pretty mild. Friday looks like it's going to be rainy. But, we can handle periods of rain, can't we? Saturday, it'll clear up, leaving us with a mainly sunny day. Sunday, a mix of sun and clouds and a high of 13 degrees for Winnipeg. Riley Lachuk will join us after the 12:30 news to take a look at your Manitoba forecast in more detail. Travel Manitoba handed out awards last night to exceptional tourism operators in our province. A couple of farms in Manitoba took home awards. Green Pastures Farm near Gardenton won the Sustainability Award. Leah Bouchard runs Green Pastures Farm with her husband, Guy Bouchard, and we've reached Leah by Zoom. Hi, Leah. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Congratulations on the award.
Thank you.
How do you feel about receiving it?
Well, I think first off, we were really surprised, but it's very honoring and humbling, and I think validates that we're on the right track.
How do you describe the farm you run?
Well, we have a mixed farm. We have turkeys and sheep. We're not a tourism operation. We just launched an experience this fall on our farm, so it hasn't been a long time. So I think that's part of why we're really honored to receive this award. It makes us feel like we're on the right track. We're sharing our farm and the experience with our guests.
Well, tell us about that. Last year, you came up with a program called Farm, Fiber, Food, and Friends. Tell us about it.
Well, it's a day that gets small groups of guests. It's really small, intimate. We don't have huge groups. It's small groups come out to the farm and really immerse themselves in the farm, immerse themselves in our lifestyle. And we take time to really connect them to the soil and to the land. Guests will spend the day slow crafting. We introduce them to sheep that produce wool for their craft. They get to spend the day kind of preparing the wool and then go home with a really cool item that they handmade from wool that has been produced on our farm. We also connect them to food. We have a farm-to-table meal at the end of the day with ingredients that were produced or foraged, raised right on our farm.
Farming isn't easy. Like actually the reality of running a farm, it's not easy. You've got kids. That's not easy. What made you think, hey, this is, people are going to love this. Let's do it.
Right. Well, I think it's seeing the need in our world for people to really connect to their food and connect to the soil and the land.
Where do you see that need? Where does it show itself? How does it show itself?
Right. Well, we live.
Is that too hard a question?
Yeah.
Well,
it's a really broad question. Yeah.
There's something going on in the world. You thought it would do people good to slow down.
Yeah. And I think when people realize or really connect to where their food and where their clothing comes from and the land that produced it, we just get a new appreciation for the land that sustains us, which we can take care of it better.
How important is sustainability to you as a person?
Yeah, it's really important. It's really a part of everything we do on our farm here. We want to leave the land and leave the soil better than we found it. And so that's, a big part of our farm mission, I think. And that's something we'd like to share with the guests that come to our farm.
And how have they reacted to being guests?
Yeah, it's been this kind of a sense of amazement at the end of the day to have been a part of something like that, to go home with something that they created start to finish, from really being able to delve into touching the soil even and learning all about that. And at the end of the day, we're eating food that has been raised on the land. And it's just this, I don't know, a sense of appreciation and connection at the end of a day immersed in that.
Are you hoping they'll go home and maybe be better consumers, make better choices?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, for sure.
How about your kids? How do they chip in?
Our kids are really involved here with us on the farm. Yeah, they're a big part of the farm. This is a family farm. We don't have any employees. It's us. And yeah, it's definitely a family affair here. Yeah.
What are you hoping they learn from the experience of being so gracious and letting people come in?
I think it's just being able to be a part of sharing and educating people with some of the knowledge that they've grown up with. They know where their food comes from, they know where their clothes come from. And it's an empowering experience to know that we can share that knowledge. We're not the only ones to hold it, but we can hold it out as a gift to other people. So, yeah.
Leah Bouchard, I know you're very, very busy. Thank you so much for squeezing me in today, and congratulations on this award. You're clearly doing something right that Travel Manitoba appreciates.
Awesome. Thanks you for having me.
Leah Bouchard's family runs the farm Green Pastures, and they just won the 2024 Travel Manitoba Sustainability Award for their tourism program.
Narrative, lyric, heroic, romantic, verse, or prose. The 2024 CBC Poetry Prize is on. Send in your best unpublished poem or poetry collection. Up for grabs, cash prizes from the Canada Council for the Arts, a 2-week writing residency at the Banff Centre for Arts and Creativity, and your work published on CBC Books. Contest closes June 1st. For rules and more, go to cbcbooks.ca.
When you walk around your neighborhood, often you see those little free libraries. Well, there's a different kind of twist on that, a blast from the past that's attracting movie lovers to a neighborhood in Edmonton. It's a little box that's bright blue. CBC's Min Dhaliwal stopped by to check it out.
Hi, I'm Aisha O'Brien, and this is my little free Blockbuster box. Doing some research, I found out that there was a few of these in the States, these Blockbuster boxes, and I thought that would just be the best idea, show some love to the neighborhood and have a little bit of fun. This morning, I don't know if you saw it, it's a big box set, so I'll put it out a little bit later. But
That's right, Blockbuster is back. Well, kinda. Like many of us, Aisha and her partner were wondering what to do with all those DVDs and Blu-rays gathering dust in the basement. They had a moment and got a friend to fabricate an overgrown mailbox, 2 shelves in a cabinet where they could put all their DVDs and Blu-rays to share.
It looks like it's straight out of one of the old stores.
Yeah, so I'm a graphic designer by trade.
From the lettering on the side of the box to the colors used to paint it, it's a throwback to how people used to watch movies not that long ago.
Oh yeah, I remember this one.
Oh, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Neighbors who live near it are already lining up for Friday night movie nights.
Hi, I am Chantal Perron.
So Chantal, you have a great view of the mini Blockbuster, and talk about convenience.
I was just going to say, not only do I have a great view, but I can literally just step across the street, have a little pick of a DVD, take it home, watch it, take it back.
So what's your take on this?
I think it's adorable. I watched her build it. I watched her paint it and design it. And she is, I think it's a really great idea. We have a lot of little libraries here in Parkview, which is wonderful. But this is another take on it. It's a little bit different. And I think a lot of us have a lot of DVDs in our basement.
And the collection of DVDs and Blu-rays is already growing. Everything from old mob classics to new releases and everything in between.
There's absolutely everything that you could think of. We've got movies for kids. A few of my favorites are in there. In here, I'm a sucker for the old Arnie movies. There's a couple of those in here, and I love those old action movies.
Just make sure you return what you borrowed and clear the dust off that DVD player.
Great story. CBC's Min Dhariwal brought us, checking out a little free Blockbuster box in Edmonton.
Bright lights can be contagious. Cash piled up high like Vegas. Closet full of shiny suits. High-rise penthouse rooftop view. Ferrari in the driveway. First-class champagne window seat. Used to think that's what I wanted, but all I really need is one good pair of blue jeans, one good old guitar, one good truck to count on, one good love with one good heart. There's days gone by you can't get back, but man, I wish I could. So I'm thankful for the chance to make each one good. A couple beers out on the lake, 8-pound bass pulling on my line, a dozen roses on her birthday, a million stars in the summer sky, a few friends to last a lifetime, full tank and a top-down breeze. More might work when it comes to some things. All I really need is one good pair of blue jeans, one good old guitar, one good truck to count on, one good love with one good heart. Those days gone by you can't get back, but man, I wish I could. So I'm thankful for the chance to make each one good. 'Cause there ain't no second time around. You only get one shot. And it ain't about how much you make, it's what you make of what you got. So give me one good pair of blue jeans, one good old guitar, one good truck to count on, one good love with one good heart. Those days gone by you can't get back, but man, I wish I could. So I'm thankful for the chance to make each one good. Yeah, I'm thankful for the chance to make each one good.
What a perfect song for our sustainability theme we got going on here, right? All you need is one good pair of blue jeans. Jerry Soretta from Manitoba, just love that song called One Good. We're about to have one good conversation, especially good if you join in. Our number to call is, she looks at her paper, 204-780-0893. That's 204-780-0893. Toll free, 1-800-268-5483. We are asking, what signs of spring are you seeing? Join the conversation. It's a wonderful thing this time of year. Everything is stirring, coming to life. What are you seeing? We've got a biologist in to answer your questions next on Radio Noon.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 12:30, it's windy, it's sunny, and it's warm. We're headed to 22 right now in Winnipeg. We're at 20 degrees. A man has been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder after the death of 2 people in 2021. RCMP say 31-year-old Brent Denachisi and 24-year-old Leona Tassezi were in a home with the suspect in the Northlands Denisoulin Denisoulene First Nation when there was a disagreement between the group. Superintendent Rob Lasson tells CBC the suspect left the house and then returned with a firearm.
The autopsies confirmed that their cause of deaths were indeed result of injuries sustained by the firearm. The accused then left again from the residence and returned moments later. Investigation has outlined that the house was then seen engulfed in flames.
Lasson says with the help of community members, investigators were able to identify a suspect. On Monday, RCMP arrested 22-year-old Leon Paul Mercredi in Fond du Lac, Saskatchewan. Mercredi is originally from Northland's Denisoulene First Nation. He has been transferred to Winnipeg, where he remains in custody. At City Hall, Transcona Councillor Russ Wyatt wants to expand the next Winnipeg Jets Whiteout Street Party. Right now, the party happens around Canada Life Centre while the Jets play inside. Wyatt wants to see the next one on Tuesday stretch all the way from Donald and True North Square to the Forks. He thinks the city should talk to the Forks and True North Sports and Entertainment. But first, Wyatt will need 2/3 of City Council to agree to even vote on the idea. His motion does not indicate who would pay for an expanded Whiteout Street Party. Well, City Council voted today to approve a plan to clean up homeless encampments around Winnipeg. Council votes this afternoon on a long-delayed proposal to build housing on the Parker lands. He was a broadcasting legend.
And now a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadians win the Stanley Cup.
Most of us recognize that voice. The last time a Canadian team won the Stanley Cup, Bob Cole made the moment soar like he did so many times on Saturday nights and other nights for millions of Canadians. For more than 50 years, Cole did play-by-play on Hockey Night in Canada, calling games into his 80s. Known for his versatility, he was also the local news anchor at CBC St. John's and was quizmaster on Reach for the Top, the high school competition. Bob Cole, also a top-ranked curler representing Newfoundland and Labrador twice at the Brier. Cole died last night in his beloved hometown of St. John's. He was surrounded by family. Bob Cole was 90 years old. You can find more news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thank you so much, Heather Wells.
You're welcome.
What a beautiful contribution and life Bob Cole had, hey? Everybody loved him. Everybody brought him into their home. Kind of like they do now with Riley Lachuk and Heather Wells. Thanks, Heather. Riley's here. Hi, Riley.
Talking wind and rain.
How windy is it going to be today?
Well, we're looking at wind gusts, Janet, that could top 70 in parts of the Red River Valley through the afternoon. We'll get into that in just a moment. So looking at satellite radar right now, we do see a few spotty showers starting to move into the Westman region along a cold front. Mainly cloudy in the north, a few showers moving through as well through parts of northern Manitoba. Otherwise, mainly sunny across much of southern Manitoba today, but we do see a line of showers developing as we get into the overnight period tonight that will and could give us even a couple of lightning strikes, maybe some thunder through the overnight period. So don't be too surprised. Nothing severe, but certainly the possibility there overnight tonight that we could have a few rumbles of thunder through the Red River Valley and even to parts of the Interlake. Otherwise, we're looking at a mainly cloudy day for Friday. Periods of rain starting in the morning and continuing on really through the day tomorrow. We're looking at periods of rain across the south. Could see a few flurries through parts of the north early on in the day tomorrow. That moves out quickly, albeit along a cold front, so it'll drag our temperatures down a bit as we get through the day tomorrow into Saturday, but we're looking at sunnier conditions as we head through the weekend. Rainfall, a general 10 to 15 millimeters across the Red River Valley by the time we get to about lunchtime Saturday. The further west you go, say into the Westman, the Parkland region, substantially less. So places like Neepawa, Russell looking at just a couple of millimeters of rain and nothing really the further north you go into the the Dauphin, Swan River, the Pas region. Most of this centered through the Red River Valley and into eastern Manitoba. And like I said, general 10 to 15 millimeters coming tomorrow. But the story, at least for today, Janet, will be the winds. So we're looking at north or southeast 20 gusting to 40 through the afternoon today. Could see some gusts even topping 60 or 70 through the southeastern corner of the province. Emerson into the Sprague region, looking at some very gusty winds, even into the later evening tonight. 40 gusting to 60, almost 70 through the Red River Valley tonight. So we're in for a bit of a windy day. Winds still quite strong through the early part of tomorrow, backing off to more like 20 gusting 40, though, by the time we hit the later afternoon for Friday. Quickly, 22 degrees today in Winnipeg, 23s for both Brandon and Dauphin. We're looking at mainly sunny skies today. A few showers in northern Manitoba, 12 in Lynn Lake, 14 in Thompson. We're looking at 12 for tomorrow, just a high of 9 degrees as that cold front sweeps through for Saturday. And then I've got 13, 8, and 16 for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
That's not bad at all.
Not bad.
Thank you so
Spring
much, Riley.
showers.
Spring showers,
Yes.
May flowers,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Leading us into our call in today. Riley Lachek, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Riley will keep an eye on the weather forecast as everything develops, and he'll update you during Up to Speed with Faith Fundal today here on CBC Radio. He'll also be on our television newscast tonight, which starts at 6. That sounds just about right for April, doesn't it? Well, let's start first with my guilty confession. When I realized today was April 25th, guess what I thought of? 8 months till Christmas. Oh, no. But the last thing I want to do is wish away those bird sounds or wish away spring. I want to savor it. Today, I'm asking for your help doing so. What signs of spring have you been seeing? Call us now, 204-780-0893. 780-0893. This will be a fun conversation and a busy one, I suspect. Waiting to respond to your calls today is Doug Collicutt. Doug is a retired biologist and our go-to guy at this time of year and pretty much every time of year. Doug, thanks for being here.
Oh, nice to be here, Janet.
And I've also asked CBC's Bryce Hoy to join us because I like Bryce a lot. He has a background in wildlife biology, a fantastic voice for radio, much like Doug. And I just thought it'd be fun for you to join the conversation. Thanks for being here.
Happy to be here. I am the resident birder here. So
A resident birder, it's true. We ask him all our questions. What was that? So if you've got questions, call us, 204-780-0893. We want to know what signs of spring you've been seeing. 780-0893. If you need a toll-free line, it's 1-800-268-5483. Let's start with the big picture, Doug. From a biological standpoint, how big a deal is spring?
Oh, it's the big deal for an awful lot of species. Birds coming back, reptiles coming up out of the ground, bugs coming out of their cracks in the trees and stuff.
Everything coming back to life, it seems.
It's all the critters that get to go away and miss our winters are coming back to life.
Bryce, do you look forward to spring?
Oh, yeah, big time. Just an anecdote here. I was at Fort White about a month ago. We were participating in Earth Day activities, which just happened a few days ago, but we were there a month ago. We were shooting some videos, and there was some activity going on. Some birds, a few geese. Back there this past weekend, it has come to life. I counted 24 bird species just from, the CBC information table, just standing there for an hour. Snakes are there, saw a woodchuck. The ground is just alive with small mammals. The trees are buzzing with butterflies and birds. Just a lovely time.
Just a lovely time. It is amazing how things are starting to change this spring. Are you hearing of a lot of activity, Doug?
Oh, yeah, there's lots of things happening, and I've seen a lot. I've been in touch with people about the Narcissus snake dens, which are apparently up and running a little early this year. So if people want to get up there, I suspect you probably shouldn't wait for the Mother's Day the Mother's Day weekend, which is traditionally their peak emergence time.
You shouldn't wait?
Yeah, I would get up there sooner rather than later. I think by the middle of May, things will be really winding down. It started so early. We had that wonderful warm El Nino winter, which didn't send a lot of cold down into the ground, so the ground warmed up earlier, snakes are up early. They don't go by the calendar, they go by the temperature.
Now, Bryce, I've never been to the Narcissus snake dens, and that's one of the reasons I asked him in too, because can you just describe to anyone who's never been there, like me, what it's like?
Mm-hmm. You know, it's interesting. Born and raised in Winnipeg, I've been there a number of times over the last 35 plus years. I remember being there as a kid and being struck by these mats of snakes, which sounds spooky, but
gross.
It's really not gross. It's fascinating when you get up there, especially as a kid. You know, you haven't really learned to fear certain things yet, right? But garter snakes are harmless. They are very friendly. You know, in the presence of an interpreter up there, you are allowed to interact a little bit. This space is great because of the access. You know, you can actually see this globally significant phenomenon unfolding there. There are these balls of snakes, which I might let Doug explain what's going on there because I'm not the expert. But it is a significant site. And in the last few years, less activity. I usually get up there once or twice a year. And, you know, I talked to the interpreter there last year, did a story that Doug was actually in last year, kind of about just this anecdotal sense, anyways, that fewer snakes in the area. But it sounds like they are coming up in the last few weeks, according to what you're hearing. Hey, Doug?
Yeah, I've had some reports from people that say that one of the dens in particular, which is typically the larger den, is quite active. Some people even calling it a frenzy of snakes at this point. But it's hit and miss as to when you get there. And don't forget, if people are going there, you got to go on a nice sunny, warm day. Don't go when it's raining and cold or snowing like some people have in the past.
Because snakes aren't going to move as much, right? Is that correct? Or does it just make it more
if
pleasant?
It's inclement weather, they'll just go back down into the dens for a while.
Right. So they want to be warm.
But I mean, the balls of snakes that Bryce was talking about, of course, is what happens is you get all these male snakes that come out and mill around on the bottom of the dens, these sinkholes in the limestone, and waiting for big female to come out. And of course, the female wants to get the heck out of there, but she ends up dragging dozens of males up with her. She will eventually mate with one of them up out of the den site and then off and feed for the summer. And then the boys go back waiting for the next female to come out. So it's, you know.
Let's not think about that too much. It's a little bit terrible, really.
Yeah.
Shane has joined us now. Shane, thanks so much for calling Radio Noon. How are you?
My pleasure. Well, first of all, I have to tell you that they're so right. The Narcisse snake pits they're free, first of all. and kids need to see this because they're so excited and it's so wonderful. But I was phoning to say I go to the dog park every day and watching the formerly hard as a rock buds on all the different, trees and bushes start to swell and start to break out and the leaves start out. I mean, you can start to believe that summer will come.
What does that do to your spirit, Shane?
Oh, well, blue sky helps a lot. And we've had a lot of great blue skies in the last week. And the temperature is gorgeous. And, it sounds silly, but watching the buds just burst out, like they're so excited about the change in temperature. It's amazing.
It's amazing. And is it the temperature that tells a tree it's time to send those leaves out?
You'll have to ask it. You'll have to ask a tree. But I'll tell you, the squirrels are chasing each other for, I presume, procreative objectives. But they're very active too, and the dogs, of course, enjoy watching that.
Oh, it just sounds like a wonderful day at the dog park, Shane. Thanks so much for calling in. So,
yeah, I mean, that's something. I mean, the plants don't go on by calendar, or any of these things go by calendar. They go by temperature. As the temperature warms up, one of my always harbingers of springs is pussy willows. When you see them finally starting to pop out, you know that spring is probably here, and the wood frogs will be calling in the ponds. And
wood frogs will be calling in the ponds. I love that. I love the sound. Are we hearing those now?
Well, the wood frogs in the city are probably just about done. I was at Assiniboine Park yesterday, and one of the ponds I know that is a regular wood frog breeding pond was full of eggs. No more calling frogs, so they're probably done. They get going pretty early in the year. They're the first amphibian to get going in the spring.
I know that there was concern about the health of frogs as well at some point. Like they're kind of are they sort of almost like the canary in the coal mine? They tell us what's going on?
Well, there is a notion in biology and ecology called an indicator species, and these are species that can be more sensitive to change. And you're right, frogs in different parts of the world have responded, maybe earlier than other, critters and creatures in habitats when there has been some exposure to some sort of change, usually brought on by us humans. And to Doug's point, I've heard a lot of frogs calling lately at Fort White. I think there's 2 species there. I think I heard the wood frog. What does the wood frog sound like? There's some analogy.
Well, the wood frog makes the kind of quark, quark, quark sound.
What's the one that sounds like when you run your finger across a comb?
That's the boreal chorus frog.
Okay, so I think both of those at Fort White.
Yeah, well, the sequence is wood frogs are first, boreal chorus frogs right after them, and then the leopard frogs will start around the same time too.
Right, and I've heard that there's some ponds kind of in the Charleswood area that are, really alive with that croaking right now. So yeah, lots going on right now.
We've got Shane who's watching on our CBC Manitoba YouTube page. Shane just called in. Jake is watching. Hi, Jake. Nice to see you. I can't see you. I really can't. But nice that you're seeing us. And sending in a comment, too. Please remember that you can do that. And if you're listening right now, join in the conversation. 780-0893, toll-free 1-800-268-5483. Jake on YouTube says he's seeing lots of robins and blue jays, and he seems to think that's early. Is it early for robins and blue jays?
Robins, maybe not, no. And they tend to flock up when they migrate, so you get bigger numbers of them in the spring than you tend to see in the summer. They kind of disperse, and sure, you'll find a few together here and there. Blue jays too, maybe you might see more of them together at different times of year. I will say, like Doug's saying that he's seeing and hearing that there's more activity earlier in the year with frogs and snakes. The same's true with some of the birds. There was a great horned owl that was nesting in northeastern Winnipeg that a bunch of the birders found out about. There's this app you can use called eBird where you post the location and date and the species that you see. And you can log different details. But I am a wildlife photographer as well, so I saw people posting about this in February. And owls tend to mate and breed earlier, like in the winter, than a lot of other birds, and many of them stick around in the winter. And I went down there and I got to visit these two lovebirds and see their 2 babies grow over the course of a couple months. But it seemed early to me as well that they had fledged and they were gone a few weeks back. So I'm curious to know if anyone else is seeing any birds that they kind of get that feeling, this feels a little bit earlier than usual.
Is that how important, first of all, these observations? I mean, we've got climate change that we're talking about. Are we seeing things happening earlier? What are we seeing in terms of effects?
There's a lot of anecdotal information about this, but very little sort of hard data collecting. I just mentioned now there's a really good website and app, the iNaturalist.ca, that lets people post reports of things. And this is kind of a citizen science project that can really amount to significant data over time. But that kind of sort of natural history data is not something that's a focus of either government biology agencies or museums or universities and such. This long-term collection of natural history data has never been the focus, unfortunately.
I'm just going to ask our director, Wendy, if Phil is still on the line. There he is. Phil, all right. Phil, thank you so much for calling Radio Noon.
Yeah, my line dropped, so I don't know.
Well, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're back.
Yeah.
What did you want to tell us about?
Well, mainly there been some pretty slow birds I haven't seen or heard this year, and I was wondering how come they're pretty slow. I've been a bird watcher for a long time. So.
And where do you live, Phil?
In Kenton.
Okay.
And I used to go bird watching with David Hatch. He used to be an ornithologist. He was from Oak Lake area.
Doug, any thoughts on birds being slow?
What sort of things aren't you seeing?
Well, I haven't even heard a killdeer yet.
Oh, okay. I've heard killdeers in town.
Yeah, you and I went out into the Interlake one spring to look at the geese, I believe. It's Phil Graham here.
Well, it's great to hear from you. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, name rings a bell, Phil, but a long time ago.
Yeah, and I got interested in birding, and I used to do birding around the Oak Lake region with David Hatch. You probably knew David Hatch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it's a little slow. The swallows should be coming back this week. I haven't heard them yet either. So.
Yeah. Well, that's what people have to remember, too, is that every individual species has its own timeline of what it does and the habitat it's looking for and how various weather factors and other things will affect it. So it's you can't paint the broad stroke of, oh, it's an early spring, everything's going to be early. Some of them may have stopped off on the way up and found a great resource for feeding for a week or two and decide to stay there. And weather conditions can, push birds, especially back and forth in some cases.
We were talking a moment ago about the importance of citizen scientists, and this is really what we're doing here. We're all out there. It's got to be incredibly valuable if we can keep good notes. And what is it you would like ideally, Bryce? You go to eBird. That's one of your apps that you love. Doug, you mentioned iNaturalist.ca.
Yeah.
Do you keep notes yourself when you go out, or are there other advice you might have for folks who are listening?
Well, I'll start. eBird, it's this app by Cornell, which is kind of like this renowned ornithological research hub in the U.S. They also have an app called the Merlin app. That app, you can actually record birdsong and will help you identify the species. So people that are curious about this stuff but don't know where to start, iNaturalist, Merlin, eBird, these are all great things that will help you kind of like as a bridge to getting into these things. They assist you and help you navigate some of this stuff and learn. iNaturalist, I'll let Doug take that, but just for people who don't know, Doug is big on citizen science. He launched the Manitoba Herps Atlas, which was in some ways analogous to some of these things, which basically encouraged Manitobans for years to log their sightings of frogs and snakes, other amphibians and reptiles in the province, and that data can actually help inform research priorities. So maybe Doug wants to talk a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, with that project, that was 2011 that started. I shut it down in 2021, partly because these other opportunities were developing and I was getting bored with it. That's what happens sometimes. And the iNaturalist system is a really great one for entering records of anything that you find, insects, plants, birds, fish, whatever. And it's developing an enormous database. And Manitoba government did put together their sort of Go Wild project. And there's two communities within the iNaturalist system that is set up to collect any and all Manitoba records or some of the Manitoba Herps Atlas records. Over the years, the 10 years that I ran the Herps Atlas, I forget what we had. It was 8,000 or 10,000 different records and several different applications from researchers for that data as part of their studies and that.
That's a good illustration of why these programs are so valuable, right? Because, I was talking to Jim Duncan. He was the former head of Fish and Wildlife for the province last year for the story I was alluding to earlier about the Narcissus snake dens and some of the science or maybe even the missed opportunities for long-term science that could be done there. And he threw this figure at me. It was something in the range of 90. We would need 90 wildlife biologists just to adequately monitor our at-risk species in Manitoba. So you get a sense there. We don't have anywhere near that many provincial biologists, by the way. And so citizen science, that comes in really handy. It helps fill the void, especially when we hear about some of the effects of climate change and these uncertainties that we have around this. So, using these apps can really be valuable.
Well, guys, this conversation's really been valuable for me. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Doug Colcutt is a retired biologist. Bryce Hoy is a reporter here at CBC with a background in wildlife biology. He can be reached at bryce.hoy@cbc.ca.
You got it.
That's me. I should know that because it's all first name, last name. Doug, thanks so much.
Oh, it was fun.
Yeah, it is fun, isn't it? You know what else is fun? Calling in and leaving a message for us, because sometimes at noon you just can't reach the phone. We got a call this morning from someone who was driving to work, and I would love to play Tara's call. She actually was calling as she was driving to work. She got cut off the first time, so she called back, but we don't have that. So I just want to say, Tara, thank you for calling. She was calling about whether or not you should mow your lawn, and I'm thinking we should have a conversation about lawn mowing and what you should do with lawns. We might do that next week. So thank you, Tara. I hope you're listening next week when we have that conversation. Tomorrow on Radio Noon, our call-in is going to be about TikTok. As you may have heard on the news, the U.S. Senate is so worried about the Chinese government getting personal information about TikTok users because it's owned by a Chinese company, that the U.S. government's trying to force the Chinese company that owns the social media app to sell it or have TikTok banned in the U.S. Canada, of course, is watching all this unfold, so we want to know, would you like it if TikTok was banned here? 204-788-3797 is our listener line, which you can call anytime to weigh in. Faith Fundal joins us now. Hello, Faith.
Hello, Janet. A Winnipeg family business has gotten a lot bigger. Yesterday, the owners of the Sober Market reopened their Toronto location. They'd been selling in a portion of the building, but they have now expanded to take over the entire space. So we're going to hear from one of the co-owners, which, get this, started the business with her husband in June 2022. Last year, they opened their Winnipeg storefront, and this year they're reopening a spot in Toronto.
Wow, that is such a cool story. So many great entrepreneurs and businesses.
Yeah, and they saw this opportunity because they said they couldn't find a place that sold non-alcoholic or low-alcoholic beverages. So they took advantage of the market, and here they are. So we'll hear more about why they've decided to do this and their big reopening.
Faith Fundal, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Faith, as you, I'm sure, know, hosts Up to Speed here on CBC Radio. That's every day from 3 to 6 p.m. Yesterday, during our call-in, by the way, a caller wanted to warn others about a farm equipment company, which she says keeps deposits on equipment that doesn't arrive. I want to let you know we've reached out to that specific company to learn more. We'll let you know what we hear from them when we do hear from them. In the meantime, keep us informed. If there's something you think we should be talking about in our call-ins or in our investigations even, leave me a message. 204-788-3797. Tell us if you don't want us to air your message. We can just listen to what you have to say. Or you can send me an email. I'm just like Bryce, first name, last name, janet.stewart@cbc.ca. We've got a minute left on Radio Noon, and I just want to thank all the people who contribute to it. We've got Josh Crabb, Riley Lachuk working with us today, Travis Peterson, Dylan Longhurst, Wendy Parker, Nellie Gonzalez, and Leif Larson. Thank you so much for listening to CBC Radio 1 on your Listen app or wherever you happen to be. Thanks to the folks who joined us on our CBC Manitoba YouTube page. Have a great day. We'll talk with you tomorrow.